remember Shoe Nice? That guy that used to drink and eat all these absurd things.
No.
And we're live. Welcome back to episode 5 of Grass and the Wicket. We've got a big special episode today. George is back. Paddy is back. How are we feeling, boys?
I mean, I'm feeling slightly 50-50. I've got concussion, so if I start sprouting any more rubbish than I usually would, then feel free to. I'd say hit me, but that's probably not the best.
It's still better content than Paddy, though.
Yeah, so I'm feeling slightly offended that I was in the last episode and you're welcoming me back. So I've obviously made such a little impression
we forgot that you returned last time.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense, really.
So we've got a question from Neil Granger on Twitter. I'm going to read it out and then we'll discuss the question. So the NFL uses a drafting process for new talent into franchises, and it aims to balance the competition by compensating weaker teams to improve them. This would be difficult to implement retrospectively in domestic cricket, but it could be used in the 100. Players could then be traded for cash, swapped for other players and future draft picks. This would certainly provide a differentiator. If this was to happen, who would be your first pick? George?
As in, who would be my first pick?
Yeah, who would be your first draft pick, and do you think it's a good idea?
I mean, I think it's quite a good idea. I don't think it's... I think there are similarities to the auction in the IPL in terms of buying players and kind of like more of a market situation.
Not much of a trading in the IPL, though, is there?
Just some trading goes on, definitely.
Okay.
But no, I think the big difference there would be that you'd, assuming it kind of works on a similar principle as the NFL, you'd retain the players kind of indefinite, basically.
Yeah.
Whereas in the IPL, I think it's every 2 or 3 years, basically, it's near enough, just release everyone.
It depends on the contract, but yeah.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it works on sort of like a 2 or 3 year cycle, I think.
Any ideas on who you guys would pick?
So Sam and I discussed this earlier about who we would pick, and we went for different approaches for how we'd draft our first pick. I won't spoil Sam's choices by reading them out for him, but I reckon my first pick would be someone like Johnny Bairstow, who is just, if you watched him in the T10, was just absolutely dominant. And I quite like to just have, especially you need to have the English blokes in the side because you can only have a certain number of foreign players. I'd go for someone like Johnny Bairstow, and you can never really look past Rashid Khan as well. He's just phenomenal.
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking about it, and the way I kind of approached it was you kind of want the best T20 players in the world is what you're thinking, but with a slight bias towards English players, obviously, as Paddy said, because you're limited in the 100. So I came up with 4 names, one of whom Paddy just mentioned there, Rashid Khan. You could never not consider him for something like that.
Yeah.
Another Rashid popped into my head. Adil Rashid, I think, wouldn't be a bad choice as your first draft pick at all. We all know bowlers win matches, and in shorter formats, Adil Rashid is a fantastic bowler.
As your first choice?
Potentially.
I mean, third choice I'd get on board with, but first choice.
I wouldn't
out of anyone in the whole world.
I really wouldn't be upset if he was in my side.
Yeah.
But I would never pick him first off the bat.
I genuinely...
You've got the whole world before you.
Not Kane Williamson, Adil Rashid.
Not Virat Kohli.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Kane Williamson, Virat Kohli, there are other options for that position. Fair enough, there are other options for a leg spinner.
For a mediocre leg spinner.
Not mediocre.
Have you heard of Ish Sodhi?
Yeah, exactly. That's mediocre. I still got 2 more names before everyone just piles on.
Well, you brought it on yourself, though, to be fair.
I knew I was going to get...
Especially if you heard me talk about Adil Rashid on any of the other episodes. At what point have I gone, you know what? Pretty useful. Certainly best in the world.
Best players in the world.
Other players I came up with.
I mean,
if he were available, which he won't be because the BCCI don't like their players playing anywhere else. Jasprit Bumrah, I think, would be a shout. I think the actual person I'll go for, though, is not a bowler, despite having just said bowlers win your matches. I think I'll pick Joss.
Okay.
Joss Buttler.
That's Somerset bias coming into it.
Maybe, but equally... I've
just realised I'm absolutely outnumbered. One, two,
Yeah,
three,
yeah.
Somerset
You're in
fans
se-
here.
You're in serious trouble here.
But Sean, Paddy and I were talking about it earlier. I think with the 100 being a new format coming in, fair enough, it's similar to T20, and there'll be a lot of similar sort of strategic crossover.
Yeah.
But I think there will be chances for innovation in terms of the strategy of how you go about things, particularly with things like the bowler can bowl 2 overs in a row kind of thing. You can
is that? Ooh.
You know that?
No, I did not know that. Did you know that?
Yeah.
And bowl 5 or 10 consecutive balls.
That's crazy.
But so I think there is potential for some quite innovative approaches. I think Joss would be really good at. Everyone says he's got a fantastic cricket brain. You watch him bat, clearly, he's really good at thinking about the game out in the middle. So I think he in the new format, I think he could be an absolute goldmine.
Yeah, George, got any ideas?
Joss sprung to mind, but Ben Stokes I'd probably go for.
Yeah,
he bats, he bowls, he fields.
He punches.
Leader on the team. He does everything you want him to and more.
I was thinking maybe Jason Roy, someone that just hits the ball hard, Englishman, and that you can back to just get you off to a flyer. Other option I was thinking was Mohammed, quite a rogue one, Mohammed Shahzad. Just because you remember that T20, he got 74 from like 20 balls or something absurd. Just like all you need is him to come off.
I suppose also the shorter the format, the less his atrocious fitness comes into.
Oh yeah, Dad Bod Central. Exactly.
Did you see the video?
Dad body's just a circle.
Did you see the video where he had to chase? There was no one really behind square on the offside, and he had to chase the boundary to get it.
Yeah, he wasn't keeping because I can't remember who it was, got an injury, and so they were keeping instead.
Oh, it's absolutely.
And do we
do
think that's a good idea to try and implement this kind of like trading auction kind of?
I think it'd be quite a nice approach for the 100. As Neil says, it would differentiate the competition a little bit. There's no cricket competition that has a true draft system that I'm aware of.
Do you know what'd be quite cool is if they drafted mid-season. That would be quite cool. Like they traded mid-season. So like
because in baseball you've got your first set of games. You can continue to trade up to the trade deadline.
Yeah.
But then it gets to midway through the season, and then that's the team you've got. All you can do is send players down. You can't trade about halfway through the season. So is that the kind of thing you're saying?
Yeah, so like you can for the first, maybe say if it's like a 4-week.
So you can get bits and pieces side, and then
or like you have a 4-week period. The first 2 weeks you're allowed to trade as much as you like, or not as much as you like, but I guess within the means. And then for the final 2 weeks your sides are fixed, and then that'd be interesting to see how different sides would look at the start and the finish. I don't know if that would work, but I think it'd be quite fun.
I guess the draft would do a very good job of not only differentiating against other T20 and franchise cricket competitions, but specifically the Blast, because otherwise it's just another short ball format played in England, where you have players playing in the areas that they're going to play county cricket. And if you added the draft system, it would make it take it a further step away from the Blast, so you don't just have two of the same competition.
Would the teams then struggle for identity if you had the draft and like trading system? Like existing fans would struggle to know who to support because say you had. I mean, Peter Traeger's a bit old now, but if he ended up going to play for a Yorkshire-based team, then does that weaken the identity of the South-West team?
However they do the player distribution, it's going to end up like that anyway. Players are going to be playing away from where they've played all their cricket growing up.
That's true, because Kent don't have a side. It's now merging with the Surrey side.
And there's no guarantee that Billings is going to...
Exactly.
They're going to. I'm not sure if they've actually said how they're going to sort out players going to places. But either way, the whole point of it is to try and kind of give everyone a fair shot at winning every player.
Yeah.
So there's every chance Billings goes and plays at Trent Bridge.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. We'll move on to the next question, which was asked by Mona Crocodile Emoji from New Zealand. Was she from New Zealand? Do you know that? Or
I don't know.
There's a New Zealand flag on the bio.
Okay, so the world.
Have you done a little Twitter stalk of Mona Crocodile?
Well, no, but they responded to us and then followed us.
Ah,
And so I got the notification on my phone this morning
nice.
about the follow. And so to give the old follow back, I had to see the profile.
Is that it? A follow for a follow with the
Yeah.
grass on the wicket?
Yeah, anyone listening, if you want more followers on Twitter, follow us and we'll follow you back.
So the New Zealand World Cup squad has been released today.
We should mention the fact we're recording this probably a few days before we're going to release it.
Yeah, so a Wednesday recording session because Jay's deciding to leave us and go to Kent.
Yeah. Gotta go and
watch some subpar cricket. So yeah, we're doing this on Wednesday, so that means that the Kiwi side's just been released this morning, or
this morning. New Zealand
it was late last night.
Yeah. So real big, pretty much standard team. 3 or 4 big players. No, not big players, but 3-4 significant changes. They've introduced Tom Blundell, who's not played an ODI. He's never played an ODI. They've picked him instead of Tim Seifert, who's like their second choice wicket-keeper batsman normally. Seifert just broke a finger, so he's been injured a little bit, so they didn't want to take the risk.
Yeah, I did hear a suggestion it's actually just because Blundell's a better keeper.
Yeah, the argument is also that Blundell has better glove work. I mean, the kind of system with New Zealand at the moment is they've dropped Tom Latham down to like number 5, number 6, and he takes the gloves now instead of opening up. And it seems to be doing reasonably well. Adds a bit of stability to that.
Should we quickly read out the squad?
Yeah, so you got Kane Williamson, Tom Blundell, Trent Boult, Colin de Grandhomme, Lockie Ferguson, Martin Guptill, Matt Henry, Tom Latham, Jimmy Neesham, Colin Munro, Henry Nicholls, Mitch Sentner, Ish Sodhi, Tim Southey and Ross Taylor.
Big up.
So you've got Latham as your first choice wicketkeeper. You've got Guptill and Henry Nicholls up at the top opening with Kane Williamson and Ross Taylor 3-4. That top 4 is a pretty solid top 4, I think. And with de Grandhomme and Neesham vying for that seamer all-rounder position, you've got a pretty good top 7 there, really, with the bat. They've been mixing it up recently in the last few ODIs against Sri Lanka and Bangladesh. They've been trying Munro, they've been trying Latham and Henry Nicholls all at the top of the order. They're mixing up the 1, 2 and like number 5. I don't think they still know which is the best, who's the best up top and like what the best order is, but I think they'll figure that out before. Notable misses is there's no Corey Anderson. He seems to be broken again.
What do you mean again? Was he ever not broken?
He's always just injured.
He's constantly injured.
It's
like, I'm fit for a game. Oh no, I'm injured again.
The other one for me, I guess, was the toughest decision according to the New Zealand coach was the leg spinner. So they chose, it was between Ish Sodhi and Todd Astle. Todd Astle, I'm not going to talk about Todd.
I was about to say, the only reason you don't like him is he isn't Ish Sodhi.
Yeah, he's competition for it.
He's a good player.
He's handy.
But he's not Ish Sodhi.
Presumably the thought process there would be Ish Sodhi's much more experienced than Todd Astle. You don't want to be going into a World Cup really with sort of untested players, despite, as you mentioned, Tom Blundell being in the squad and never played an ODI.
The other thing is you can argue that Sodhi's a bit more of an aggressive leg spinner compared to Todd Astle. And he's more likely to take wickets. He might be more expensive, but he's got a better chance, I think, at taking wickets. Also, rumour has it, apparently, from the New Zealand camp, Kane Williamson pushed for Ish Sodhi over Todd Astle in the selection meeting, although the coach has been adamant that the coach made the final choice.
Well, I mean, coach made the final choice doesn't mean the captain didn't push that
yeah.
choice in front of him.
Then, apart from that, pretty standard side, I think the only question I have with that New Zealand side is Boult and Southey are not as good white ball bowlers as they are red ball bowlers. They're good, but I still question whether they're going to be able to bowl sides up. The one thing that the coaches said, and I still agree with it, is the way they'll win this World Cup is if they can bowl sides out. So I back them to score runs, but my question is they can sometimes be quite expensive.
I think that's it. I think Southey and Boult, if you're trying to bowl a team out, they're fantastic white ball bowlers as well. If the ball's swinging,
but it's not.
They're very likely to get.
It will do early doors.
For 10, 15 overs.
Mm.
It won't swing much after that, and that could be when it's trouble time for New Zealand if they've not already taken some 3 or 4 wickets up top.
But certainly, if the two of them get their tails up and get 3 or
2,
4 early doors, then
it's game on.
Yeah,
that's true.
It's a serious. They're gonna have a serious match in their hands then.
The final bit I'll say is they picked Colin Munro again. He averages 24 in ODI cricket. He's played 57 ODIs or something. He's not really proven himself enough. And my question is, there's George Worker, who is on a New Zealand Central contract, and they've not even picked him for a long time. And he averages 43 in list day cricket. And he's done reasonably well in the chances that he's had for New Zealand. So I just think they need to give him a go. I mean, Munro can be explosive.
I was going to say, I think presumably the reason they keep giving Munro goes is the ability he's shown in T20s.
Yeah.
Where he's hit 3 international T20 hundreds. There's not many people who have hit 3 or more T20 international hundreds. So he's clearly got the ability in white ball cricket. It's just he's yet to really demonstrate it in any longer formats.
And again, with Sodhi being picked, if he gets many games, which I don't think he will, because I'll pick Santner as their first choice spinner. This is really his chance to show that he's on a world class level to operate. Otherwise, he's just unfortunately not on the level that I hoped he is.
Hyped him up to be.
Do you want to move on to the overrates?
But
quickly before we do move on,
Okay.
I did get a little stat on Blundell. Should he debut in this World Cup, he'll be the first New Zealander to debut have their ODI debut in a World Cup since a certain Danny Morrison in 1987. Who we failed to mention when we were talking about commentators.
Yeah, I can't believe I forgot about Danny Morrison. He is the funniest commentator, for hands down. Do you know who we're talking about? He's crazy.
Danny Morrison's quality.
It's his highlight reel on YouTube, which is always worth a watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Eddie Zingers
I
are lighting up.
just wanted to put that out there because you can't miss out on an opportunity to talk about Danny Morrison.
But now we've spoken about Danny Morrison.
That's fine.
Now we can talk.
Move on.
Now we can talk about the slow over rates.
Now we can.
So Ajinkya Rahane and Rohit Sharma both got fined 12 lakhs for slow over rates. Imad Wasim also got fined recently for over rates, 20% of his match fees. I want to first just clarify, is there, apart from obviously making the game longer, are there any other implications on having a slow over rate? Does it affect match in any other way?
In ODI cricket, in ODI in 2020, it's not really.
No, because the whole point, if you're behind your over rate, you've taken that time doing something. And generally that's gaining a tactical advantage as a fielding team, because you're taking your time really thinking about fields and stuff like that.
And I
would argue keeping to the over rate is part of being good at cricket almost. If you can bowl your over faster, then you can take longer to set your field.
Yeah.
I suppose you put more pressure on batsmen as well, who then, the longer they stay at the crease without facing the ball, will have a tendency to start double crossing themselves, and piling on more pressure just by not facing the ball, because it's taking longer to get to them.
Yeah.
George?
Lose focus as well, batsmen, and then you've got the weather as well coming in Test match cricket and how that impacts on stuff.
And so, George, if you were chairman of the ICC,
Yeah.
what would you do to try and combat over rates? Obviously, there's already the fines and things. Would you make it harsher? Would you make it lighter? What do you think you'd do?
Well, I think you need to do something to get them speeding up. I mean, I feel like maybe getting players to miss games isn't necessarily the best punishment, which is something which has happened previously, because if you want to grow cricket, you want to see your best players and your captains playing as much as possible, and so banning someone because they've not played impacts the spectator, I would argue, more than it necessarily impacts the team. But fines or run penalties, I'd say maybe a run penalty would be.
I think
would be better off.
Harsher run penalties will stop teams from slow over rates a lot quicker. If you fall behind a certain threshold and make that threshold pretty tight, 5 penalty runs. And teams
how frequently? Then they have to get their over it back.
Then say they've got.
Well, preferably over they've not bowled at the time they're meant to have bowled all their overs, I'd say.
Yeah, or every ball.
So my feeling on it is there's quite a lot of leeway given as well. so they're told, you have this much time. So I think in T20s they have an hour and a half to bowl their 20 overs.
Yeah.
And
That's quite long.
Well, that was for Rahane's fine. They took just shy of 2 hours to bowl their overs.
That's stupid.
So they can kind of get away with running over and they don't get penalised at all, which is always confusing me. The same in tests, where you have the extra half hour at the end of a day of test cricket, and it always gets eaten into. Hardly ever as a team actually bowled their overs when they're meant to have bowled them.
And even with that extra half an hour,
they
still don't bowl their overs.
So my feeling is, as soon as you haven't bowled your overs by the time you are meant to have bowled them, even if you've got the extra bit of time to play the rest of the game, that's when penalties should start being imposed. Whether they're financial penalties on the captains, whether they're run penalties, whatever, that's when they should start. And then if you fail to bowl overs because you've taken so long in Test cricket, for example, that's when they get really harsh, in my opinion. That's when you should be looking at...
When they don't bowl their overs.
That's when you should be looking at some pretty big run penalties, potentially match bans. Because the thing is, I don't think you'd see it. If you started imposing run penalties if they didn't bowl their overs by 6 o'clock in the Test match, they wouldn't run into the extra half hour because they would just bowl their overs because it wasn't worth their while to run into that extra half
almost
hour.
like a sin bin kind of thing, so fielders have to...
I like that. Yeah,
so you've got to field with one less.
Yeah. Or field, if you're absurdly over the rate, you lose 2 fielders. Could you imagine that not having a long on, long off? You just hit straight down the ground.
No, that's actually not an awful idea.
In T20 or in stuff
I think you might be onto something there. So I've just looked up, because last man stands are very strict on your over rates.
Is this that format?
So last man stands is 8-a-side T20 cricket, but you have to bowl your overs in 60 minutes. Okay. The innings is 60 minutes long. And here it says for every over, if you field first, for every over bowled after 60 minutes, the umpire may deduct the same amount of overs or less from your batting innings. So if you bowl 2 overs after the 60 minutes, you just lose that from your innings.
Oh, so you just
they also do 20 runs if you bowl second, 20 runs per over when you for the overs you go over 60 minutes. And they are seriously harsh. I don't think I've ever seen a last man stands game. Certainly I've never played in one which has gone over 60 minutes to get 20 overs in. I know they're 5 ball overs, but still.
Yeah.
There could be an idea to get rid of, you lose some batting time.
Yeah.
You lose, so if you just take too long to bowl your last few overs, you just lose them from your batting innings, and then you're really in trouble.
I think that's a good idea.
I think it's also interesting that, speaking to my dad, he used to play loads of club cricket, sort of 20 years ago. I think it's interesting that there's a similar sort of problem, I think, happening in club cricket, where over rate's getting slower and slower. And I'm not quite sure why that is. Because when you're playing club cricket, you don't sort of notice it being particularly slow over rate, I wouldn't say. And you don't notice people time wasting.
I mean, I wouldn't have said club cricket, what I've played has been played at a frenetic pace.
No. But I'm sure it wasn't 20 years ago either.
But then you do notice whenever you get actual umpires coming to umpire the game, and you kind of play at the same pace, they'll be like, right, you're already 3 overs behind the rate. And you don't realise it, that it's so easy to slip behind the rate, and then it's a pretty big rush to get back up to it.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about that same idea.
I really like it.
You lose a fielder.
So
you can implement it for other things.
How would you choose who is sin binned? Which field is sin binned? Because if you've got Chris Lynn in your side, it doesn't matter, does it?
Or Chris Gale. That truly doesn't matter.
Yeah, because
you've lost nothing. You voluntarily.
You've already only got 8 fielders.
I can imagine those kind of players that just the lads who wants to go off. Oh, man, he's already on his way back off that stadium.
The race to the mountain between a couple of them.
Yeah, he holds the ball for ages, such that there's a slow over rate, so he can walk off. No, how would you? Obviously, you've just thought of this idea, I assume.
Yeah,
so there's no need to have it properly thought out, ready to go now.
Out with a draft. When I release the blonde Mopheads 11, shall I release a full ICC policy about how to
Yes.
sin bin players.
I mean, they don't have to come together. I don't think there's any kind of correlation between
No.
blonde mopheads
And slow over
and slow over it. Maybe there is, though. Maybe that's the problem.
Bro.
But there are more blonde mopheads than there used to be, and that's why over it is slow.
A thrilling testimonial game. Sin bins and blonde mopheads. That's it.
That's the title of the episode. Alright, let's move on to role models in cricket. George, you've touched on it a little bit in the past, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I just know that Alex Hales has come out this week and talked about how it takes 10 seconds for you to lose your reputation as a cricketer, and it takes 10 years for that to kind of come back again. And we spoke previously about how Steve Smith and David Warner are going to be related to the ball tampering incident for the rest of their careers. And I just wondered whether cricket holds itself on a higher moral compass and in terms of the standards it expects of its players than other sports, and why that's the case.
So just to add on to that, I think it's worth mentioning. So there's actually been a few people in the last week or so getting in trouble for various things. So Hardik Pandya and KL Rahul have just been summoned to go in front of the BCCI Ombudsman in relation to their comments they made on a chat show in India.
Yeah, Coffee with Curran.
Yeah.
It was
Well, no, that was before
Coffee
Christmas,
with,
wasn't it?
So for context, Coffee with Curran is like a very popular chat show. Like they get pretty much all the Bollywood actors and actresses on there now, because they've run out of Bollywood actors and actresses. They've started to get the cricketers on now, and it's a huge platform, and so many people watch it, and so like it's not like a small show or anything like that. But yeah, they said
they made some rather misogynistic comments about how they sort of conduct themselves on a night out. And so they've said, essentially, I think they're going to find out kind of what their punishments are going to be. We've had Dimuth Karunaratne, the Sri Lanka captain, arrested for drink driving.
Yeah.
Where he crashed into a three-wheeler. Thankfully, no one seriously injured.
Yeah, everyone was okay.
Could have ended up badly. And Umar Akmal's been in trouble for breaking a team curfew. I think it's interesting when you look at what those sort of offences are. In a lot of other sports, like football or rugby league in Australia, in the NRL, those things just wouldn't be worthy of mention, especially in the NRL. They'd be like, these boys are really well behaved. And so I think it's sort of the same thing of, I think compared to other sports, cricket certainly does hold itself to a higher standard.
Why do you think that is, George? Why do you think cricket has a higher moral compass, or do you?
Oh, I think it's kind of linked to the whole origin of the game and how the game likes to kind of view itself as being this kind of, you've got the spirit of cricket, and there's kind of an image surrounding cricket which I think is quite prim and proper in how it likes to conduct itself. And so if people fail to meet those standards, then they're pretty often quite visibly criticised for doing that.
Yeah, I think it's got a large sort of chunk to do with the fact, as far as I'm aware, no other sport has written into the laws about the spirit of the game. Whereas cricket is right there, front and centre. As soon as you start reading the laws, spirit of the game is right there.
Yeah.
All players have to uphold the spirit of the game, whatever that means. And it's very, it's a very fuzzy concept, but it kind of means that you, even if someone's like, well, technically, I've not transgressed here. If you're not acting towards the intent of the laws and to what the sort of perceived correct way to play the game is, then you'll get punished, or you can be punished.
Especially if the game's almost unplayable when you're not playing towards the spirit of the game. If you've got one team that are playing within the spirit and one team that are playing to either to the letter of the law or outside of it, it becomes almost an unplayable game. Whereas in games like football, if you get people cheating, you can send them off pretty easily, and then the game can continue, and there's a serious disadvantage for that side. Whereas if you're playing club cricket and a team decides to cheat or plays outside the spirit of the game, there's very little you can do. So you kind of expect everyone to play up to a certain standard such that then you can play the game properly.
It's almost like the way you get people to stay within you playing the game fairly is to shame them into it rather than any actual punishment, almost. I think is kind of what you're saying there.
Yeah.
I also think it kind of ties in with how cricket spread it spread through the British Empire and was kind of distributed around large parts of the world through that. And it was often British officials how it started in India was British officials, and the local people saw what they were doing and tried to kind of get involved. And there was very much a kind of like moral superiority element to how cricket was played. And so if an individual failed to meet the kind of spirit of cricket, it was kind of a way for the British Empire at the time to kind of impose themselves and impose what they thought was the right thing to do on other people. And I think that is an element of kind of what is still stringing through today.
Do you also think that, so one thing I want to say is that, in 2005, after the England won the Ashes, there was all this, like, the England team went berserk in terms of like their night out and things like that. But no one like really comments on what happened there. Like I wonder if there was like what? How am I trying to describe this? So, well, like because there's like you've seen the photos like Freddie Flintoff with all that stuff on him. Like if like the marks and stuff. Like do we think that's because times have changed? Because do you think people would be commenting on that now if like people had like an absurd night like that and then went to Downing Street? If that had happened, say, this year or last year, do you think that would have? Do you think times have changed?
I certainly think. I can't say for the game in general. I certainly think the England side has changed. Definitely. There's no way that the England side would do that now. However, if they didn't have to make a public appearance within the next few days, I think that 100% they'd go out and party and have a good time. But not if they were going to Downing Street. I think they'd probably delay that a little bit and try and keep it slightly more out of the public eye.
Although even back in 2005, Andrew Flintoff had quite a hard time for his conduct at 10 Downing Street, and I think he still talks about it today.
Well, he talks about
on various podcasts and stuff about how
what he did, his antics,
about what he was
and losing the captaincy for taking a peddler out, and I think a lot of that, when those things happened, the reason that now it doesn't happen is because it happened, and it was particularly stupid, and people realise it's probably not the way that you should conduct yourself if you're a professional sportsman.
Yeah.
It was still very funny though, and I wouldn't ever, if I were there, I would never tell him to not do it.
To take the pedalo out?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of pedalos.
Yeah.
I think they should be a fixture everywhere.
So wasn't it? I'm not an athlete.
The pedalo.
Yeah.
Well, it was during the 06-07 Ashes, wasn't it? And I think he just got found in the morning, passed out in a pedalo, didn't he?
He'd taken it out.
Had he
taken the World Cup with him or something really stupid? And he was just absolutely plastered. And decided that like 2 a.m. was when to take a pedalo out.
Best time to go out with a pedalo, yeah.
I suppose it's a little bit of like lower leg exercise, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a workout, isn't it?
Yeah, a little workout.
Yeah, some post-pints workout.
We'll quickly move on to Pakistan versus Australia, the conclusion of that ODI series. Australia have won that series 5-0. Pakistan did show some sort of resistance with the bat, like over the series, but really, Australia just dominated them. For me, I don't see them winning games with that team that they have at the moment. Even though we talk about how they are so inconsistent and like they can play amazing.
They've got some players to come in, I think, haven't they?
Who's injured? Can we clarify who's injured? Because I can't.
Question.
I when I'm looking at that side, all I'm seeing is there's so much weight at the moment on Haris Sahel.
Yeah.
Because Sean Masood, like, I'm sorry, Sean, I love you, but you average 22 in ODI cricket now, and like this was your first 50 in about 10 games. I just don't think he's good enough.
Mohammed Hafiz is to come in.
I thought Hafiz retired.
I think so.
Maybe this is his
Good question.
final walk. I swear Hafiz retired. But like you've got Haris Sahel, Sean Masood is not performing. Mohammed Rizwan has got now 200s in this series out of 5, which is good, but I still question his consistency considering he averages only 32.
I mean, 200s in 5 games, that's mildly consistent.
Pretty handy.
Yeah.
If you get the England
I'd
team,
take 200s at any point in my life.
Just 200s up. 100s, I'll take that.
50. If I could get past
honest,
10.
Yeah, 10.
Double figures, for me, that's what it's all about. Just double figures.
Off the mark, it's not a duck, I'm grand.
Well, in Scotland, you can pretty much just double whatever total you get and say that's pretty much what you deserved. Because it's you get some pretty sticky wickets and you get some pretty dodgy tracks. So if you can get past 25, you can raise the bat.
Do you get a lot of grass on the wicket?
I'm just editing that out. This is editing the podcast, Paddy. I'm sorry, Jay. I'm going to have to leave it in. It was so bad, and the people need to know.
The bowling looks quite good, though. You've got Yasir Shah, Usman Shinwari, Junaid Khan, and Mohammed Abbas. It's very strong bowling attack. I back them to get wickets. I still
Amir
worry
as well.
Amir will come back. He'll probably be picked for the World Cup side as well. But he's not
even.
Someone
Won Champions Trophy
exactly
2 years ago. I don't think we could.
But that side is a very different. Oh yeah, Fucker Zaman
I
is
was about to say, I've actually finally looked up who's still coming.
Yeah, actually, maybe I need to probably retract those comments when I hear who's on the injury list or rest list.
You got Shoaib Malik to come back in.
Yeah, Shoaib Malik is pretty handy for World Cup cricket.
Fucker Zaman, Asif Ali. There's quite a few people to come back in.
Okay.
It's a bit of a B team that Pakistan put out, to be fair.
Interesting. Are they all injured? Or
I think they were just rested. I think they were trying to find out. I think
they were trying to pick their reserve.
Other people, yeah.
It's definitely the time to do it. Because you can hide all the results behind the IPL as well. And you're coming up to...
Well, they've also got games against England before the World Cup, so it's not like they have to use these to get into football.
Into
okay, so yeah, they probably are maybe a little bit stronger with the bat than I thought. And I forgot about Fahim Ashraf as well, who's not playing. I guess he might actually do better than I was expecting. Interesting, Rizwan has taken the gloves though, not Umar Akmal. But
Umar
Akmal. The Akmals, the entire Akmal family between them have taken about 4 catches in their lives, haven't they?
They've definitely shelled more. They've definitely shelled more catches than they've taken.
Have you seen that compilation of Cameron Akmal? Like, it's just like literally dropping.
When you say it's a compilation, is it just edited to remove the bowler bowling it, and then it's every ball he's ever faced as a keeper, and he's just dropped all of them?
It's like he dropped so many that, especially when the match fixing scandal came out, and he was dropping so many catches that I was like, surely you can't be that bad at catching.
Maybe it's the long con, and actually he can catch, and he's actually just been spot fixing on himself to drop catches for his entire career.
If he hasn't broken the law, he's just gone, this 2019 World Cup
suddenly
I'm gonna set up my entire career to go to the World Cup and take everything, take only worldies.
We're not talking about Cameron, who's not in the squad. Or won't be in the squad.
Cameron Akmal, no, he's like...
Umar, I meant. Did I say Cameron?
Well, I thought... To be fair, Umar Akmal has better hands than Cameron, but that is really damning him with fake praise.
Yeah, he's taken
he once caught something. It was a cold, but he caught something.
Quickly moving on to the IPL side. So Lungi Giri obviously was injured for the Chennai team after we discussed it. They replaced him with... Sam, pronounce his name, please.
Scott Kuggeleijn.
Paddy,
no.
It's actually pronounced Kuggeleijn, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Which could sound like a brand, like a type of ferry.
Yes, I can imagine
it.
It
sounds like
ferry.
Yeah. Like it does, doesn't it?
I mean, I can see it.
Yeah,
exactly. Out of all of the consumer products,
But it's
Slash
line, like
Kuggeleijn.
it's got line at the end, and I feel like I'm probably thinking of Stena Line. I think that's what made me think of that.
Where would the ferry run from?
That's a good question. North to South Island, I suppose. It is a Kiwi.
Oh yeah, I was thinking more because it sounds quite Dutch.
Oh yeah,
I was thinking Holland to like Norwich, Rotterdam to Norwich, or
Holland to
something.
Norwich.
Yeah.
Rotterdam to
Because
Norwich.
The famous trade route.
So many people want to go to Norwich.
Yeah, I think it
Or
should
maybe
just
they were
be
just trying to leave.
a cricketing ferry line.
Yeah.
What, transporting players?
It's
you got bats.
It's the ferry that stopped stopped the timeless test from when England were in South Africa.
Yeah, was that run by Kuggeleijn?
Yeah, because it does kind of sound like a Safa.
Dutch, isn't it?
Dutch,
So it's
exactly.
kind of all links together.
George, what would you say? What kind of product would Kuggeleijn be?
I think it's got a future as a cricketing ferry,
Okay.
like a cruise. You've got these
A
specialist
cricket
cruise. now.
Kuggelijn's cruise.
A Kuggeleijn cricketing cruise.
Does it have have nets on board? Presumably.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, obviously.
Oh, that's going to be so difficult to bat on. Because I'm not thinking of these big cruise liners. I'm kind of thinking more
like
sort
a
of
little fishing boat.
no, like kind of like slightly bigger catamaran.
I mean, I'm thinking the top floor would have a full-on cricket pitch, like a drop-in cricket pitch.
Yeah, nice.
So you know how they used to play the testimonial tennis matches on a Dubai skyscraper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here we have a cricket game on our boat.
Are you gonna net it in to stop the balls getting lost, or are you just if
Roof
you hit
it.
it that far enough, new ball.
Yeah, I think that would probably be what we would go
Yeah.
for.
Or are we gonna?
Although maybe not the best for ocean health. With the plastics in the ocean at the moment, you
Leather
just
seams.
end up with
I
20.
don't know.
Turtles,
I feel
like,
a
snorting,
cricket ball
like,
would
lines of-
deteriorate reasonably well.
Yeah. Maybe you need to design a special cricket ball.
Like, so you've got golf balls
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
There are golf balls that are made out of
Fish food.
food. Yeah.
Ah, nice.
So you can hit them. You can hit them off wherever into the water, and they break apart and
And the fish can eat.
and yeah.
So
They
I
can
mean,
be
you
eaten.
can't be a very competent or very confident golfer if you're standing
Fine,
on the
fine.
first tee and you're like, I don't
No,
really matter, this goes in
break
the
out the fish food.
You know what? I'm actually going to purposefully get a nice slice of my
I'd assume it's more for training, but I think I probably could get invested in some of these.
Yeah, I mean, I think
for
it's
my
probably
golf
a
game,
worthwhile
yeah.
investment. I do agree, but
Especially, well, for Phil Mickelson, who in the Ryder Cup he took an iron off the tee to make sure that he hit the fairway and hit water that wasn't even on the course map. So I think he could do with a couple of them as well.
So back to Scott Kuggeleijn.
I don't think there's any point. I think I just leave it on the ferry.
I know nothing about. I googled it.
Yeah.
I looked up his page on Cricket Info. From what I can tell, he's a distinctly mediocre Kiwi kind of
Jay,
bowling all-rounder.
I think the Kuggeleijn ship has sailed.
That's good. All right, we'll move on. India retained potentially the last ever Test, Mace.
Yes, but
because obviously the Test Championship starts again. Also, I started having a look at how the point system works. It is so complicated.
I've never
it's like
bothered with it.
it's 1 point per win, but then it's like weighted and multiplied by factors depending on how strong the other team is. Home and away doesn't make a difference, but it's absurdly complicated, the metric system for the points. New Zealand were only behind on 8 points, so I reckon maybe, I don't know how many, I think that's probably like two games against a good side, and you get those points. The thing is,
it also depends on what results you're knocking out of your ranking stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if you've beaten, if you won your last tour away in England,
yeah,
and then you go to England and you win again, it doesn't do that much for you. But if you got absolutely hammered and then go to England and
is that a factor?
yeah, because it knocks out
previous
series and stuff.
Well, maybe that's the England cricket team plan. Get absolutely thumped away in Australia, away in the West Indies, and then just 3 years time.
3 years time,
they're going to be distinctly mediocre. However, they earn a lot more points than being beaten 4-0 or whatever.
You also actually make $1 million for winning the Test, Mace. I mean, for Indian players, that's not very much, but regardless.
I think for basically any country apart from the ones that are most likely to get it, it would be massive. to get $1 million. I don't know whether that just goes to the board or whether the players get to see
No, it normally gets distributed between the
that's
players.
what I
I'm
guess.
pretty sure that's what happens because I remember that's what happened when England won the Test Mace in 2009. I think whenever Strauss.
It was like 2011, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, against South Africa when they finished that series off. Speaking of money, George, West Indies seem to be in a bit of a strife.
Yeah, they've cancelled their West Indies tour to Bangladesh.
West Indies A or is it West Indies?
Yeah,
West Indies A. They were scheduled to play 3 4-day matches and 5 one-dayers, but they
just don't have any money.
They've
Yeah,
cancelled it.
the exact quote I saw from someone at BCB was financial crisis, which isn't. It's a bit of a damning phrase, isn't it?
Well, because
Doesn't sound great.
they're still they're a full member nation, so they get they get quite a lot of money from the ICC, but obviously
Compared to associate nations.
compared to associate nations, yeah.
Well, what I quite liked because there were two statements that were released by the BCB. So it was an unnamed official said, "Oh yeah, they've got a financial crisis," and then the one named official came out and said, "Oh, they've got some internal problems, but it's not wise on my part to disclose why." And then his mate has just absolutely undermined it and been like, "I can take all the headlines here and not reveal myself." And I did quite like that by the BCB. They're obviously slightly bitter about the whole situation.
I mean, it's not the only cancelled tour to Bangladesh as well, with the New Zealand under-19s cancelling their tour, which was originally postponed after the Christchurch shooting.
Was there a statement made or anything like that?
I think they were just concerned. I think the parents of the under-19 cricketers were slightly concerned about the political situation between the two countries, and I don't think there was necessarily any safety issues or safety concerns, but they just didn't think that it would be an appropriate thing for either team to do.
I think even if a lot of the under-19 players maybe haven't been affected that hard. I mean, I don't know. But even if they haven't, even if there's one or two there that have taken it hard, I think it'd be really unfair if they kind of missed out on performing to their best and really showcasing themselves because of something completely out of their control, such a tragedy. It wouldn't be fair to make them try and be performing at an elite level in the aftermath of that, I think. So I think it is a good move, really.
And I think Bangladesh's under-19 team are going to New Zealand in September anyway, so I think it's more of just a delay of the two countries playing against each other rather than a big falling out, which is always a relief.
Who saw the Sam Curran hat-trick?
I did.
Did you?
I did, yeah. I was watching it.
Did you see it?
Well, I've seen clips of it on online.
No, when I saw the Rabada dismissal, my initial thought was, "Oh, that's an absolute corker! What a delivery!" And Sam rightly pointed out it was just a leg stump half volley, and Rabada's nowhere near it in a different postcode.
To leg or outside off, like trying to
either or.
Through a large gate.
That was a ball that should have gone for about $1 million.
I mean, it wasn't an atrocious ball. And the thing is, he's done the right thing there.
Hit the stumps.
Rabada, he's going to be swinging for the trees. They need a lot of runs here. Full and straight, hit the stumps. Make sure, just don't let him free his arms at it as well.
Yeah.
But equally, if you bowled that ball to a top order batsman, I wouldn't expect it to get him out.
Although his wicket of Colin Munro was equally like a bit of a half volley, and Munro just mishit it to long on.
I've seen better hat tricks. I have seen worse hat tricks, but I've seen better hat tricks.
I've definitely seen worse hat tricks.
What's the worst hat trick you've ever seen?
I saw it live. Steve Finn in the opening game of the 2015 World Cup at the MCG against Australia. Last 3 balls of the Australian innings, all 3 of them. I think there was a rank full toss and 2 rank half crackers, and they were all caught on boundary. And
absolutely,
it was such an awful volley. You got hat trick.
Don't get me wrong. Curran has got some serious bottle, and he held his nerve, and there's some way to end off a match, and he's playing some seriously good cricket right now. I don't know whether he's justified the massive price tag yet, but he's well on a way to, if he continues churning out performances.
Well, I mean, that's 2 games in a row now where he's taken crucial late wickets. Against Rajasthan, he got Smith and another one in his final over after he'd taken serious tap earlier, which shows some pretty good head on his shoulders to come back. I think he bowled 3 overs for about 47 or something.
Another man for our blonde mop head.
He is as well, yeah. Tom as well. Both of them. Yeah. This is a strong side.
I'm still not convinced that Sam Curran's a great T20 player.
Open the batting.
He did open the batting, yeah, with Chris Gale out of the
He
team.
opened.
Yes,
Yeah,
Sam Curran opened.
20 off 10.
20 off 10, yeah.
It's not bad.
It's really not. Yaz Rana on the Wisdom podcast posed a great question, which was he was talking to Duckett, I think, of just how do I explain how this guy's any good? He bowls 80 miles an hour and has never scored a first class ton. How is he any good at cricket? And why is he one of the best in the world at the moment?
Sam Curran.
Yeah, and there's no discernible science really behind. It kind of breaks all the ways we looked at players beforehand, and he doesn't bowl express wheels. He hits good areas but not great areas. He just seems to step up to the plate.
He's the quintessential golden arm, isn't he? Really, or just golden player because he's golden bat as well.
Is that why he's good though? Because opposition kind of go, oh, he's not actually as good as we think he is,
and then underestimate him, and he just
like
perform when it matters.
Like Stuart McGill back in the day, people would go, oh, he's not Shane Warne, he's not that good, and
6 foot.
Yeah, you take it.
Well, it's how I got all my wickets last summer when I was opening the bowling with someone that bowls 75 plus.
Yeah,
I'm chucking down some dibby dobblers nowhere near at that speed, and they go, oh, finally some respite. And they'd either be through the shot so early because they've been facing someone quick, or they'll just try and take a massive hoik and just kind of chip it to someone. So it could have that going for it.
Yeah.
Is he just an increased, better version of Darren Stevens when you think about it? Because Darren Stevens was about 65, Curran bowls 82, 83. Stevens can bat, Curran can bat. Is he just an elevated Darren Stevens?
Maybe.
Or a young one?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe the dad bod's going to develop. So in that game, I think we should also point out Delhi massively choked it. I mean, they'd lost their last 7 wickets for 8 runs. And I think it's no coincidence that 3 of their 4 overseas players were South Africans.
Oh, no.
I think. Oh, well, it might have been 2 out of 4, actually. But
George, what are we doing? Delhi? Are they? It's
Well,
early doors still.
we said in the drinks break podcast that
yeah.
Delhi could be fantastic.
Or they could be awful.
Yeah, and I think they're threatening to do both at the moment, which is kind of what you want from them, really. There's no point in just being good or just being awful. You might as well keep people on their toes.
I think I just don't want Delhi to win. That's all it is. I just don't want them to win.
Why are you anti-Delhi?
I support Mumbai, so of course I'm going to say.
You're anti everyone except Mumbai then?
Well, you'll be
precisely.
Yeah, that's how fan works. It's not. You don't just pick one team.
You'll be.
So Jay's not. He's not pro Mumbai. He's just anti everyone else.
You'll be more than happy to see the last 2 overs of Mumbai's innings, which is going on as we speak. 45 runs were scored off them.
Yes.
So they've just scored 45 off the last 2 overs.
Also, I just had because when you brought up what do you love?
It's the fact you said also, and I'm not entirely sure what you're going to pull out of your bag of tricks now for a conversation topic. You've just got a cheeky grin on your face.
I just started looking at Steve Smith. He's done okay so far. He's come back a little bit. 38, 28, didn't bat, and then he's got 20 on. So he seems to be doing reasonably well.
Well, yeah, he didn't stop playing cricket because he wasn't good enough. He stopped playing because he was a cheat. I never really expected him to be rubbish when he came back. He's a big game player as well. He's one of those guys that with that more extra pressure on him, he's still going to play well.
David Warner as well.
David Warner's doing very well.
Oh, he loves it. He absolutely loves it.
What, big games or just like
big games? Being the villain.
He's the heel. He's the massive heel.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of wanted to get caught with the sandpaper thing, such that he could come back and play even better and kind of be like, well, I'm still quality.
Speaking of opening batsmen, Jason Roy has come out and says he wants to try and play Test cricket, backed by Alex Stewart. George, what do we think? Do we think Roy could be our response to the?
It could be the key that unlocks the top order.
I would rather James Vince, who's come out and said the same thing at Hampshire.
Yeah, we talked about this last week.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a massive Vince fan, but I would rather Vince than Jason Roy. Actually, so Jason Roy's not opened in first class
batted
cricket
six
for a while. He's batted sort of 5 and 6 mostly. He only played 2 championship games last year, I think. He batted 3 in his most recent one for the Lions.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably the most likely spot for him should he play tests. But a lot of people are talking maybe opening as well. So I went back through his first class games, and the last time he opened in a first class game was in May 2013.
So how can he come out and say he wants to open for the Test side, but he just doesn't open in first class cricket, and he doesn't play any?
He's not
any
said
champ?
he wants to open, I think. And to be fair, it's not his choice that he's not playing champ. That was Surrey's choice.
It's true. I can't.
Well,
I can't get past. It's when Rashid came into the side as well. I can't get past. If you're not playing in the champ, I'd always say you're not allowed to play in the Test side because it's surely one progresses to the other.
More interestingly, with along that sort of line of thought, is that Alex Stewart backed Jason Roy saying he wants to play Test cricket when Surrey, under his stewardship, haven't been playing him in first class cricket.
I wonder whether Alex Stewart is thinking, hang on a second, I could be onto a winner here. If we get Jason Roy picked, then that probably means that Rory Burns is going to be dropped from the England team, and I'd much rather have Rory Burns opening for my Surrey team.
Yeah.
It would be a pretty smart move, man. He's playing 4D chess.
Going back, so last time Roy opened in first class cricket, in that team was Vikram Solanki. That's how long ago it was. Vikram Solanki was still playing. It's just, you can't open with him, surely.
Yeah,
I mean, then again, you've still got Marcus Trescothick playing at 42, so, I mean, Vikram Solanki...
I'm not saying Vikram Solanki wasn't still a good player.
He could do a job, but I'd pick him in my team.
I think anyone who follows county cricket has probably forgotten about the existence of Vikram Solanki. It was that long ago that he retired. And that was the last time Jason Roy went out to open an innings in first class cricket.
And on that note, I think we'll have our top... We got any ideas for our top
cricketing tip of the week? George, do you have one this week? Or do we need to open it to the floor?
I think we open it to the floor.
A top cricketing tip. One day we're going to plan one of these.
Yeah, one day we'll remember at least an hour before.
And you'd have thought with the amount of club cricket we play, I suppose that might be the thing. We're not good enough club cricketers to progress to the next level because we don't know the tips.
Yeah, we need people to message in with their
tips, and then we can give a shout out.
Steve,
club cricketer tip of the day is to send us your club cricketer tips of the day, and then we can shout out whoever's got the best one.
The ultimate cop out.
Yeah, no,
I've got one about captaincy.
Oh, yeah, I definitely need this. We're getting the armband this year.
Right, if you're captain, are you selfless or are you going to be selfish? What do you do? Because, you think about it, you're playing the same amount as everyone else. My question as a captain is, do you want to I'll let everyone bowl and let everyone give a game? Or are you trying to,
Well, point out, that's not really a tip. That's a question.
Okay, top.
And there's a reason we put this out to the people. And
okay.
We can't even get our heads around
it. It's not even like we could tell you, no, that's not a good tip. It just wasn't a tip.
Can we edit that out?
No. It's definitely staying in. Because I have all the power here. Right, top tip. We could go with...
I think
captain put yourself
in top tip, which I'd quite like to tell my captain from last year, is if it's a really, really hot summer, if it's really warm, one of the hottest on records, and you win the toss, do not bowl first. Bat. It's a baked pitch. There are plenty of runs to be scored. Stop bowling first. Just stop. Time to stop.
And on that rant, I think we'll end today's episode. Thank you very much for listening. Social media.
At Grass Wicket on Twitter, Grass and Wicket Podcast on Facebook. We are on Podbean, we're on Spotify, we're
Stitcher.
on Apple Podcasts. We will be on Stitcher. I think we should now be up. Certainly by the time this is out, we should be there. And on YouTube as well.
And I think we might make a subreddit as well.
Yes. Just for you Redditors out there.
So send in your questions.
To follow our news.
Yeah, send in your questions, responses. Let's get a conversation going. And I think on that note, we'll end. Thank you very much for listening. I was waiting for you to say something.
Cheers.